That's got to be one of the hardest things I've done on this car. Hello, welcome to HJR Garage. I am Henry. So, again, those that you have not watched this channel before, I am currently doing a full restoration and engine conversion on this MGB. We've done all of the fabrication side of things. We've made a fuel system last week. I've done a lot. And in this episode, I'm hoping to get the engine and gearbox into this car for the final time and not have to take them back out again. And hopefully some other stuff as well, which you'll probably know more than me because you'll have read the title and seen the thumbnail, because you are in the future. So yeah, I'm going to start off by mounting the gearbox to the engine and yeah, try and swing it into this car. Now, I've been a little bit busy since you last kind of saw me do the fuel system and stuff, just because I wanted to get some stuff done. And although I like doing my YouTube, it does tend to get in the way a little bit sometimes. But we're back now and I'll show you what I've been getting on with. Got the original Jaguar flywheel, which arrived in the post, which is good. It's a dual mass flywheel, so you can see it has movement before the clutch, before it spins. So it just takes the slack out of the gear change. Not ideal. I would have preferred to have a single mass flywheel, but they're expensive and this is what I've got. So this is what's staying. I've put some studs in here with some bolts, so it's easier to take off. Now I'm hoping that these clear the bell housing in here. We'll see when we try and put it together. I've mounted the new starter motor there. Now this starter motor is on this side of the gearbox, so I need to cut a slot in the gearbox here, which we'll do in this episode. Yeah, apart from that, it's an RX-8 clutch with a pressure plate from a Jag. What else can I tell you? This is an adapter plate from RX-8 gearbox adapters. This is the RX-8 gearbox. I've put this on the top, which I did do in last episode. It's the slave cylinder. I need to put some grease and stuff on it before we kind of pop it into the car. I've mounted it using two exhaust studs as well, at a slight angle to get the right angle for this. So, oh yeah, and I installed a new bearing there. Let's try and mount that to that. Now this, to start off with, is going to be kind of like a trial run, because I need to measure up and draw on this where I need to cut out for this starter motor. So I'm going to swing it into place, try and get some bolts in and tighten it up as much as I can until it starts fouling, and then I'll make my mark so that I can cut this. Right, that's it lined up there. You gonna stay? Basically, I'm looking at this bit there, going to there. Yeah, that should be about right. Right, now that's all cut out, hopefully I've done it in the right place, and this should just bolt up. If not, then I'll have to do a little bit more modification, so we'll see. Let's try and get it roughly in place. Right, it needs to be made bigger a little bit. On that side. So I'll just make that slightly larger. Right, a few issues. That bolt was too long in the bottom of the starter motor, so I've just put a different one in. And this fin on the engine here just catches with the back of the slave cylinder. So I'm going to have to ruin my nice paint job and just trim that down, obviously avoiding this plug here, so I'll probably have to cut it off here and down. That's the idea anyway. Luckily that's at the back of the engine where no one's going to see, so it's not the end of the world. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll take this off and then do that. And then it should line up. This is hard pressed against that at the moment. So, and obviously it's essentially operating the clutch, isn't it, if you pushed it that way. So might be some spacing or something having to be done with this, because that's not great. So, I've just been faffing around with this for a bit. Something's not right here. You can see the throat bearing down there. I've taken the clutch fork off, and with the pivot point for the clutch is too close to the pressure plate, and the clutch release bearing will not, it kind of starts to depress the clutch as I tighten the gearbox in. So it's like the gearbox needs to sit out a little bit more, or something I've done wrong with this plate and stuff. So I need to take it back off again and see what's going on, because basically I thought it was this, because that was like pressed up all the way, but it's because the fork wanted to be over there, because the pressure plate was forcing the throat bearing that way, which forced the fork that way, if you like. So it was trying to be like that too much, when it needs to kind of just sit like that when it's not in use. Just kind of no pressure on it. An annoying one that I need to try and figure out. So I need to have a longer think about that issue. I think I'm going to have to change where the clutch fork pivots. I think that's going to be my solution. I'm not sure. It's all a bit of a pain, to be honest. I didn't expect to have to deal with that. I thought it would just all bolt up and that would be fine. Because others have done it in the past. So I'll try and figure it out, and I'll come back in the morning and hopefully implement whatever plan I come up with tonight. So I'll see you then. Good morning. I'm back in the garage, and I had a night of thinking about this issue with the kind of clutch bearing not all the way pressing this, or sorry, not having enough room, so it's always engaged. And in my head, there's two options. Well, there's more than two options, but the main option is this is the clutch kind of pivot point for the fork. Now, can I make a smaller one of those? That's my first option. Get a bolt and profile it to this shape, and maybe put a locking nut on it or something like that that makes it kind of exactly the distance I need. Second option, is there any room in this kind of plunger that goes into the slave cylinder? Could I grind a bit of the end off and make that smaller? And then someone did suggest I need to preload the clutch. Now, this is a brand new, I want to say clutch, the pressure plate. Preload the pressure plate, because it's a self-adjusting clutch. Apparently you need to preload it when you put it in. However, I've also read that when the springs are compressed on the pressure plate, like this, it's already under pressure. It's already kind of in the right place. And if it hadn't been in the right place, that wouldn't be kind of fitting as nicely as it does. So I think it's pre-adjusted, because it is a brand new pressure plate and a brand new clutch, etc. So that shouldn't be the issue. So I think what I'm going to do is try and get a bolt that's the right thread and kind of machine that kind of curve to it and make my own one of these. Right, let me show you my plan. So this is a little countersunk M10 thread. Same thread as this original pivot point. Now, my theory is weld that onto there and then shape that into the same radius as this. And then what I'll have made is a pivot point which I've still got the kind of flats on to tighten it up, but it's curved into the right shape to fit properly with the clutch fork. So I'm going to clean all this up I'm going to put some weld in here through the middle. Hopefully weld that to there. I'll probably use my flux core for this because it's all mild steel. And I've got my newer welder, which you might have seen in the last episode, set up for stainless. So I'll probably use the flux core just to shoot a load of weld down there, dead hot, get it really well kind of stuck, and then, yeah, probably get it in the drill with my grinder or something along those lines to try and shape it into the right kind of radius that matches that. So I will try and set you up so you can watch me do that. That's very hot, so let's that cool down and then we will shape it somehow. I've not decided how yet. Right, we've got a makeshift lathe or something, I don't know. I'm going to clamp my drill on and then I'm going to use the grinder to shape it. And I've got to try and get it as close as possible to that kind of profile there. So let's give it a go. It's not perfect, but it's definitely good enough. If it works. Similar profile, doesn't have to be exact. I think that should work, and we can adjust it. Hopefully it'll just be a case of screwing it all the way in, but we'll see. It might need a little spacer behind it or something, but we'll go and fit it to the gearbox and see what happens. Well, there you go. That might work. Hopefully the spring fits in behind there. If not, I might need to grind a flat in. But I'll test fit it now and see what it's like. Right, the clutch doesn't quite, or the spring on the clutch fork doesn't quite go over. So you see where I've made that mark there? I'm just going to flatten that off with a file or a grinder or something on both sides, leaving the chamfer on the other two sides, and then the spring should just clip over and we'll be all good. See, that's got a nice flat for the spring to fit over now. I'll try and install it and see what happens. Right, that now works quite nicely. Don't know if you're going to be able to see in there. You can see it either side of that, my new kind of pivot there. Put some grease on it as well, just to help it along a little bit. But what we can do now, and you can see now that's moved further back. So as it tightens up, it might now be okay. We'll see. But I'll try and put the gearbox back on and then we'll see if this has worked, essentially. New issue. Yay. That seems to have worked. I'm not too sure. There's slack in the clutch fork now, which I'll show you. So that can move up and down now. So that means even though it's all the way in, there is room for it. The new issue is I've just tried to rotate the engine and I'm pretty sure the studs that I put the flywheel on with are catching the gearbox casing, which is great. So I'm going to have to take them out, come up with another option for those, I think. I've just taken one of those out. I want to show you I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but you see that little mark there and there. So it was, those studs were hitting there and there. So I'm going to have to give in and go to the shops and buy some. You know, when you've got so much going on, you try and remember everything and you just forget. And I forgot that I ordered these, which are the flywheels to pressure plate bolts. The actual one's 30mm long from Jaguar. And they arrived just as I was about to get in the car to go and buy these bolts. So, lessons learned, remember what you order. So I will install these, which are the actual bolts for this job. Right, they're all installed. I just took one out at a time in opposites, so that I wouldn't have to lose the clutch position. That's good. So that clutch is clamped in. It's not going anywhere. And they're now the right ones. So that's good. The weather really has taken a turn for the worst today. It's miserable. It's just starting to encroach on my workspace. So that's all bolted up now. You can see it's holding its own weight, which is good. And the next thing I'm going to do is just this. So this is a PTFE lined hose now for my AM4 kind of clutch line. So I've put my olive on. You've got to separate this outer sheathing and put it on, like, I'm not going to get it off now, but there's like a PTFE lining inside there. I'll show you. You see the lining there. So the olive goes on the outside of that lining, but on the inside of the outer kind of casing. And then this kind of fits it into here, onto here. So I'm going to put this on because it's going to be extremely difficult to get that on once it's in the car. And there we go. It's all clamped in, nice and strong. Hopefully it's leak tight. This is heat proof and whatever as well, so I'm not too bothered about that being that close to that. Should be fine. So I'll hook this out of the way somewhere. I'm getting to the point now where I need to start clearing all of this crap out of the way so that I can pop it in. I'm not having a very successful day. So I put it all back together and I left the bottom few bolts undone. And that's when I did my spin test on the engine. I rotated the engine, it cleared, everything, happy days. Then I lifted the engine up on the hoist and I tightened the gearbox and the engine together. And I wasn't going to do another spin test, and then I thought, oh, go on, I will do. And it is fouling again. But it's the actual outside of the pressure plate is hitting the inside of the gearbox in a different location. So this outside bit of the pressure plate is hitting the gearbox. And you can see the witness mark there. So I'm thinking now, ignore that line there. I'm thinking about cutting that kind of elliptical shape there out by drilling each corner and putting a radius on so it keeps the strength, then cutting down and around. And that will make it clear. But then there's obviously something not quite right because that's too thick, basically. I don't know why you're not focusing. Focus. Because that flywheel is just too thick. And I can make it work by all the stuff I've done. This pivot bush, the pivot point, putting the different bolts on, all that type of stuff. I can get it to work, but it's just not quite how I envisioned it going, to be honest. Yeah, I'm kind of like, if I do that, I'm at the no going back stage. And I know I've kind of already gone through that by cutting it for the starter motor. But that's kind of been done before. I've never heard of anyone having to cut this bit to get this to fit. But then I don't know anyone that's used the dual mass flywheel. You know, when you just don't want to do something because it just doesn't seem right. So I just need to think about it for a bit longer, procrastinate for a bit, and then I'll probably do it anyway. Right, I took some Brave pills and I went for it. And I used the old pressure plate to kind of look, to make sure I was definitely doing it in the right place and it would fit afterwards. And it seems to have clearance all the way around now, so that's good. I also did some more research just to reconfirm my theory about the throw-out bearing. It is on the Mazda meant to be in contact with the fins on the pressure plate the whole time, very lightly, which is what mine's doing. So that seems to be set up correctly. So maybe I can put the gearbox on the engine now and it not have any issues. If it is, I'm either going to cry or, I don't know, give up. I don't know yet. We'll see when it happens. I'm going to pop the gearbox on and in place and then put the engine in the car. But if I can at least get this spinning properly and all bolted up right, then that'll be a massive, massive achievement considering all the issues I've had. You can see it's still pretty close, but it does have clearance. I've spun the engine around the whole way. It's probably like half a finger's width in there now. This has some movement, so it's got the light pressure it needs. See how it moves slightly in, which means that it's not putting any pressure on the clutch. Like I can't move it that way, but I can move it that way. So that's good, I think. It's all bolted up and tightened up. As I say, the engine spins. So happy days. Hopefully that's the issues sorted. Tricky day with issues and stuff, isn't it? Like trying to figure out all these different things. I'm hoping that slave cylinder works. It's obviously mounted my own special way, but we'll see, won't we? Good morning. Right, we're hoping for a more successful day today. So we're hoping to get the engine in. Before I get the engine in, I want to bleed all the brakes. So I've got Tom here. He's going to be the pedal presser, and he's going to also help me get the engine in today, because now the engine bay's painted, I don't want to scratch anything or dent anything, so I need him to guide the gearbox in so we don't make a mess. So we're going to quickly bleed these brakes. And the reason I'm doing that is because I added that joiner there. I just want to make sure that's not leaking. So we'll crack on with that, and then I'll get back with you. Right, those brakes are bled. Really, really solid feel. Probably better than I did last time, actually. And there's, yeah, it's because Tom's here.
I'll go with pedal.
So they're nice and solid. So the only thing left now, and we've checked for leaks, there's no leaks. Only thing left is to get this engine in. So yeah, it'll be like 30 seconds for you, but it's going to be a few hours for us. Because of all the modifications I've done to like the engine mounts and putting the pressure regulator in and stuff, I don't know if you saw on the time lapse, but that was incredibly difficult. We've had to take both engine mounts off the engine.
It's still not in.
No, it's not. Both engine mounts are off the engine, and there's no transmission mount on at the moment, but we've got it in the right place finally. So hopefully now, you're not going to be able to see it, so I'm not going to film it. I'm going to put the transmission mount on. Once the transmission mount's on, hopefully we should be able to get the engine mounts back in, and then it'll be in the right place, but we'll see. Getting this engine into the right position is a right pain. We've been fighting it for hours now. We haven't filmed any of it just because it's been such a long process. We've managed to get the passenger side engine mount in kind of halfway, and we're just in the process of trying to get the driver's side one in now. We've managed to get 2 of the bolts in. You can see there. But it's actually, as we're doing it, it's bringing the mount further in. So obviously it's extremely tight. And then we've got to try and get the bolt through the rubber bit, which is the hard bit as well. But yeah, slowly, just making progress. Right, I thought I'd give you an update. Quite a lot's happened. Not good things. Tom's got home just because we were taking so long and he got bored. No, he had to go and do something. I have been trying to get this driver side engine mount on for hours. Hours and hours and hours. It is 5 o'clock in the evening now. And when I first said hello to you, it was 9:45 in the morning. It's just, you know, one of those things where you think, how have I done this so many times and just it been easy? And then today it's hard when it's the final one. It's just sod's law, isn't it? To the point where I've mucked my threads up on my block because I've been trying to get bolts in from different angles and stuff, and it's cut new threads essentially using the old bolts. And as I thought I was tightening up, what I was doing is mashing the threads up essentially. Pain. I'm trying to sort it out now. You can see I've got a tap in there. I've got a little spanner and I am just slowly cleaning the threads out with my M10 tap. I can feel it kind of cleaning as it's going. But obviously it's all very tight. You can't really get your hands in. I'm going to carry on with this for a bit. Hopefully I can get them sorted. It's like the mount's the wrong size now all of a sudden, even though it was on the engine. Anyway, I'm going to keep it this, try and clear all 3 of those threads, get the mount on and run away. You know what, these holes for the exhaust make a good actor. I'm not sure I'm clearing the original thread. I think I might be making a new one, but a thread's a thread. Right, with a lot of faffing, I've got at least the thread started now on that driver side engine mount. Shattered now. You can see I've got that thread started, that one's almost all the way in, and that one's started. So that's a good, they're all screwing in nicely as well now. So I'm going to just tighten them all up and then try and get the bolt through the bush, which is going to be the next problem. And then once we've done that, we can mount the gearbox, which is currently on a bottle jack, being held in the right place. I thought I'd just show you the way you get the bolt through here. So the one that goes through the bush. It's the very well-known technique of screwdriver against the little knob on the bottom of the engine, well, the sump, and a spanner lodged onto the chassis rail. But you've got to be careful, it's got to be a 20mm spanner. It's now 8:10 and both engine mounts are in, and the bolts are in through the bushes, and there's nuts on them. They're not tightened up yet, but there's nuts on them. That's got to be one of the hardest things I've done on this car. I've been at it for hours. Just, you've got to get the engine in. I've designed the mounts wrong, let's be honest. I should have mounted it from the top on a bolt that standed up on a bush that was there, and then it would have just loaded down and it would have been fine. Because of the engine and where I wanted it to sit in the car and stuff, that I didn't think that was possible. Maybe it would have been if I tried a bit harder. But they're in, and the engine is kind of sat in the right place. I had to put that bolt through from the back, so if I ever want to take it out, I'll have to take the starter motor out. It's not the end of the world. So I think I've deserved a beer, so I'm going to go and get a cold snack. I will be back in the morning to get the gearbox mount on and then get all of the crap out of the way so we can have a look at the engine in the engine bay. Hopefully it looks good. Because if it doesn't, well, I don't know. See you in the morning. Good morning. Now, I've been a little bit busy this morning before I've kind of said hello to you. I've got the engine mount tightened up. I've got the gearbox mount on and bolted in. And I've made a hydraulic clutch line to go to that slave cylinder. So I'll show you all of that. There's my PTFE lined clutch line going to like a it's not quite 180, is it? 145 degree bend there with an extender, because I did have this one, but it wasn't quite long enough to reach the sealing point of the original threads. It is an AM4 thread on the MGB clutch master cylinder. So I've got to try and bleed that at some point, which should be interesting. Yeah, they're all tightened up. I've got high tensile strength bolts through them now with nylock nuts on both sides. And that's now in as well. Again with nylock nuts and a high tensile strength bolt through it. So the engine is sat where it needs to sit now, which is good. Right, I've got a major issue. And I think it was Peter in the comments that told me about this issue. And I said, oh no, mine's fine. The clutch fork is hitting the heater plenum. I bled the clutch and it just went solid as I was pressing it. I was thinking, why is that? And I looked at the engine and the engine was actually moving forwards a little bit as I was trying to press the clutch. So obviously I stopped thinking what was going on. And it was only once that happened I realised that the clutch fork is on the heater plenum. It won't move because it's literally in just the right position at the moment to fit, but not give it any movement. It's just something that I overlooked. But it's going to be an expensive mistake in terms of time. Let me see if I can show you. You can see that there, that is actually touching that fork there. It's touching the top of that heater plenum. So this bit here. So now I need to figure out how I fix that. Now the obvious answer is to take the engine out, cut that, weld a bit in, dress it up, etc. However, the engine just took ages to get in and to line up and to get the bolts in and all that type of stuff. It just took forever. And it was fiddly and horrible job. So that is the last thing I want to do. I'm going to have a think and I'll get back to you. It's actually easier to see. Under the car, you see that there? So it's hitting. No, I'm kind of wondering whether I can get a pry bar or something and a hammer and kind of hit it until it fits. I know that sounds quite a basic way to do it, but the other option is to go through where the heater would come out, as in like where the little flap is in the footwell. I might be able to go through there and cut a bit of a hole and weld something up. It's going to be very tight underneath there to try and get anything in. So my three options are go through the heater kind of slot, try and hit it from underneath. Failing both of those, it's the engine's got to come out, isn't it? I think that's the only way really, but I'll try the other ones first, probably in vain, and then we'll take the engine out. Extremely hard work and I'm butchering it, but it is nearly free. Obviously I've got to keep going a bit more. I'm trying to get a good angle so you can see it at. Yeah, I think that's better. You see how I'm profiling it in slowly, and heating it up with some gas, and then trying to knock it into shape. I'll have to come in there with some primer and some under seal and stuff, or stone chip, but let's focus on the first issue, which is getting it to fit. I'm filming this, but I've no idea if you can actually tell what it is. You can see the clutch slave cylinder there, you can see the rubber boot on it, you can see the clutch fork, you can see where it's hitting now. I've ground some of the clutch fork away with the Dremel, all from underneath here. The clutch is now as pressed down as it'll go. And it's just still catching in that one place. On my own, I've come up with this solution. Just keeping the clutch pressed down so I can see where it's catching. That's exactly what you need. A 2x4, a chisel, a hammering tool, and some spacers. It's almost at its full kind of extension now. Just not quite going all the way. You can feel that it's past halfway. It is going past halfway, so there's a point where I'm going, it's hitting. Will it depress the clutch though? The problem is, one bump in the road or something, and then that clutch fork will hit the top, and it won't. Yeah, it'll make a racket, won't it? And I don't want to be on a track or doing something, and all of a sudden I'm trying to grab a gear. I can't because my clutch is stuck or something. So I'm going to keep working at it. I've been working at it all day, just slowly inching out millimeters or fractions of a millimeters by hammering it and grinding a bit and hammering it. But it's in such a tight space that it's just extremely difficult. Oh, I am knackered. The clutch is millimeters, and I mean millimeters away from fitting properly. But I've run out of time today. So I'm going to be back in this episode, and I want to get that clutch fully working, because then everything's kind of, I wanted this episode to be engines in, no issues. So that's the plan. It's time for me to go and have some tea, a beer, and come at it nice and fresh next time I'm free. Good afternoon, actually. I have been busy working in the garage this morning, fixing this issue with the, as you can tell by the crap all over my forehead, fixing this issue with the clutch fork, and it's done. I've sorted it. It's got loads of clearance now. I managed to Dremel down the top of the clutch fork from underneath the car, and I've managed to hammer enough clearance in the top of the heater planning so that the clutch fork goes all the way to the stop on the back of the firewall now. So that's really, really good. I'm so happy that I've got that done. I didn't have to take the engine out. I still need to do a few other bits and bobs. So I've obviously knocked all the paint off that and all the underseal and stuff. So I need to put some primer up there, wait for that to dry, and then spray some stone chip or something to stop it from rusting. And because I needed to move it quite a way, I've caught a bit of a hole, like a rip in the heater plenum, so that the top of the gearbox is kind of venting into the heater plenum, which I don't want to happen. So I'll have a look into what I can do with that. I don't know if I'll fix it today, but I need to, it's too tight to weld anything in. Whether I can get some putty or something inside the heater plenum and kind of make it seal, or weld it from inside the heater plenum, from inside the car or something, I don't know. But I need to figure that out. But let me show you kind of what it looks like from underneath the car. It's not pretty, but it now works. There we go. You can see that little hole that I've caused because I had to give it so much clearance, but you can see there's clearance all the way around it. It looks less on the camera than it actually is. There's a good kind of 2 or 3 mil all the way around it through the whole travel now. So I'm happy that that fits. Obviously, I just need to fix that hole somehow. But there was just not enough movement in the metal to allow it to go that much, if you know what I mean. There was so much clearance needed. But you can imagine I've spent like a day and a half underneath the car just kind of trying to make clearance now. So it took a while. So yeah, I'm happy that that works now. I also had a problem that the gearbox wouldn't go into reverse. I've fixed that. There was something stopping it inside the mechanism on the shifter. So that's done as well. So I've had a really successful morning. So I just thought I'd crack on rather than kind of film anything. I just sort of went for it, to be honest. So I'll show you the inside of the car. So there you go. I've even got the surround and everything on it. That's all there. I've cable tied the boot down, so it's all nice and sealed. So yeah, it goes into reverse and all the gears. So happy days. So yeah, I'm gonna get back on my back underneath the car, put some primer down on that rip or that bit of metal that's kind of got no paint on it left anymore. I'm gonna look inside the car and see what I might be able to do about that kind of hole in the heater plenum. I prefer to weld it, I must admit, but you can get some of that like putty stuff that will kind of seal that hole. It's not structural. I don't know. I'll have a look into that and then I'll get back to you of what I decide to do. Right, so I've popped some primer on that. I'm going to let that dry and paint it with Underseal another day now. I've also made up the fuel line that goes from the regulator to the rail. So I'll show you that in a second. And some of my other bits and bobs arrived. So I might let you into a little secret and show you some of them as well. I brought some of the wiring through. I'm going to tidy all that up completely, but I just wanted to get it roughly in so I could shut the bonnet. I've got an electric water pump. Rocketeer supplied it. It's a Davis Craig unit. And all the hoses and stuff are all made to fit because Rocketeer put these engines in MX-5s. So all the cooling side of it should fit. I've not got much room down the front, so I'm going to have to figure that out. You can see, if you remember have I showed you my radiator yet? Anyway, I might need to space the radiator out a little bit, sort all these hoses out, but that's for another episode. That's the hose I've put in from the regulator to the rail. P-clamped it there, just like the clutch hose. So it's starting to really take shape now, and I think it just looks incredible in that engine bay. I'm so glad I chose the paint like red and black that I did. It's going to look really, really, really good. So that was a long episode full of things going wrong, basically. But I think we attacked them right, and we just fixed them one at a time, and got it done. Engine's now in, clutch works, fuel system's fully plumbed up. Yeah, we're getting really, really close to kind of the final finishing touches on this car. And I know when you look at it, there's still loads to do, but in my head, some of the big bits are done now. I need to start on the wiring. I've been putting it off because I am not an electrician. I am mechanically trained engineer, and that's what I've done for my whole life. And I've wired plugs and stuff, and I've installed speaker systems on cars and things in the past in my 17-year-old going to car cruise days, but never wired a full car. So it's going to be a massive learning curve. So yeah, bear with me on that one. And if you've got any advice for wiring, please drop it down in the comments. If anyone wants to come and help, let me know as well. So thank you so much for watching. We made really, really good progress this episode. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything in the future, and it really helps the channel out. Drop a comment on the video and like it. And I will see you next time to carry on with my Jaguar V6 MGB conversion.